Speaking of 50, a.k.a. Ferrari, which I always mention on this podcast, shout out to Fifth, Joe Budden and his crew on the podcast talked about who has the best mixtape catalog. Listen, some of the names that were mentioned, I 100% respect, right? They mentioned Fabulous. They mentioned Jadakiss. They mentioned Lil Wayne. They mentioned 50. Joe Budden, I can respect too on there. But there were two names that were mentioned, and one specifically that I got upset about. See, I think Ice was the one who made the point. Might have been Ice. Because I get these guys' names mixed up. It might have been Ice that made the point. I agree with, it also matters of how much mixtapes you put out and how many of them are actually quality, right? Because Lil Wayne had this run, and he had a plethora of mixtapes, right, that were really, really high quality. But then, he was dropping mixtape, and they were like, all right. It's like the Gucci Mane thing. Gucci Mane's just dropping. And yeah, he might have a decent mixtape here, hot mixtape here. The rest is like, all right. So I think the quality of work as well plays a role into this, at least in my eyes. But I think if we're going mixtapes of all time, I'm not really going to go on a order list. I do think 50 Cent has the best mixtape catalog, period. I think anyone who debates that and says it's not 50, either they didn't listen to the tapes or they didn't know the story behind the tapes. Or the effect, actually, the three things. So they didn't listen to the tapes, don't know the story behind the tapes, or the effect. The reason why 50's mixtape run is so legendary is because this guy got shot 9 times, had no money, and had drug dealers, kingpins that were still wanting to kill him. And the story is just real. Coming back out on the mixtape circuit with the first song being Fuck You to the people that shot him, you can't write a better fucking movie script than that. Lil Wayne was already rich at that time, but you got to give him props because Lil Wayne already being successful and rich, he still had hunger to do more. So that's also, you got to respect that, right? It's like the LeBron James and Bronny James thing, right? Bronny James is already rich as fuck because his dad's rich as fuck, but he still has the drive to become his own basketball player and is doing his own thing. It's the same thing with Lil Wayne, right? He was already rich. He didn't have to go on a mixtape run and dominate hip-hop, but he did that because he was hungry to be the best. So you got to give Lil Wayne props for that. But 50's story is a lot harder. This guy's broke, struggling, scared for his life, says, fuck you, I'm still going to drop music, drop a Guess Who's Back mixtape, go on this legendary 50 Cent in June mixtape run, and put on his crew in the mixtape run, and had the biggest buzz ever in hip-hop history, or in music history, I want to say. Because I can't even think of any artist outside of the hip-hop genre that had a bigger buzz than that. The buzz was insane. The run was insane. He put on his crew, had hip-hop in a chokehold, and delivered on that buzz. Delivered. Like, Get Rich or Die Trying is, to me, the greatest hip-hop album of all time, but it is the top 10 greatest hip-hop album of all time. Would you put Carter 3 in there after that huge mixtape run? I don't know. Some people love that album. Some people, I don't really hear it in the debates of classics. I really don't. I'm just letting you guys know. I don't know. A lot of people consider it a classic. But some people say the Carter 2 they like better. It's the Carter 1, blah, blah, blah. So I think Lil Wayne's run was great. And what Lil Wayne did, he capitalized off that run as well and put on Nicki and Drake. Even though Drake kind of had his own buzz, Nicki did a little bit too. But you could say, you know what, signing with Young Money definitely gave him a good look. So I guess you could give that props to Wayne as well. But 50 just had, the story was just harder. The music was better, more real. I don't know how to explain it. I'm not saying that Lil Wayne was trash at all. Lil Wayne definitely is in the top 3 mixtapes of all time catalog. What I was disappointed in this clip is they didn't mention Lloyd Banks at all. This is a guy who's had a mixtape catalog that's been consistent for year in and year out. And, in my opinion, has the best mixtape of all time with Cold Corner 2. So Lloyd Banks, to me, is in the top 5, top 3, whatever you want to call it. Another person's name that I was upset that I didn't mention is Chamillionaire. Chamillionaire's mixtape Messiah series is one of the best that I've ever heard. I'd put Chameleon up there as the second, maybe even, maybe not above 50, but I'd put him up as the second spot. Lloyd Banks is probably third or second. I flip-flop on this list. I don't have like a solid 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? I just can't do it. 50 is number 1 on that mixtape thing. But as far as the best mixtape I've ever heard in my life is Lloyd Banks' Cold Corner 2. There's no debate in that. I don't care what 50 Cent mixtape. I don't care what Chamillionaire mixtape. I don't care what Lil Wayne. Fabulous is high on my list as well. I love the Soul Tape mixtape series. That's one of the best. Jadakiss, I didn't really get into mixtape-wise. And who else was mentioned? I don't know, man. Yeah, there's artists, a lot of different artists that did mixtapes, but I don't know, man. I think if you don't put 50 Cent above Lil Wayne, I think you just don't understand the story. And the best way to understand a story is to watch my documentaries. And you'll see that the story that 50 has is way, way harder. And the music, once you understand here's, if you guys don't remember Tawil on my, Tafili actually, on my podcast when he would come and do interviews, when we had him as a guest for fun. He would always tell me, I didn't know about 50 Cent. I knew like 50 Cent had a mixtape run and he made a buzz off it, but I didn't understand the story. But when you told me the story and I actually listened to the music, I really was like, damn, you might have the best mixtape catalog. That's the thing. I think if you understand the story behind 50's mixtape run, you'll understand the songs more and you'll appreciate it more. That's kind of the problem. That's where the disconnect with 50's mixtape catalog comes in to a lot of the newer people. Is they don't understand the story behind it. They just hear the music. Or they don't even listen to the music. That's another thing. Like Forever King, War Angel, Sincerely Yours, Southside. These type of mixtapes are classics that people just kind of waver off of or don't really listen. They'll just, take one side and say, oh, this is the better side. But I think Lloyd Banks should have been mentioned in the conversation. I think Cold Corner 2 is to me, the best mixtape of all time, but that's a whole different discussion.